Hearing gunshots should be a big deal. It's not natural. If you're not at a shooting range or you're not in the military, if you live on XYZ street, it shouldn't be normal, everyday protocol to hear gunshots, and it affects so many people in so many different ways. So when these leads come in and we're able to make a case to get those callous individuals who want to keep this drama going off the streets, I'm in. I've got a crew of guys and a cast of people behind me that are willing to play ball.
The gun team and NIBIN and the partnership that we've developed with the department and other corresponding agencies in the DA's office it coincides with the Department of Justice's PSN initiative, which is Project Safe Neighborhoods, which the number one goal from an overarching standpoint is reduce violence. And there are multi-facets to that, one of which is identifying those offenders that are appropriate for federal prosecution that need the perhaps stiffer sentences that we can get for possession of a firearm.
The thing to understand is we're not trying to just test all guns. We want crime guns. That's what firearms used in the commission of a crime. That's what we're looking at. There's this misnomer that we're trying to get all these guns off the streets, take everybody's guns, and that's not the case whatsoever. The vast majority of gun owners and gun possessors are extremely responsible individuals. We're trying to take the people off that are shooting at houses indiscriminately, shooting at cars, shooting at other people with wanting disregard for life out here on these streets. That's what we want off these streets. We use a ton of different information and techniques. We utilize, if it's an area with our Arctic cameras that are around, we use those. Confidential informants, neighbors, concerned citizens, interviews. We'll go back and reread reports and re-interview people. They'll call someone back to verify and vet what they saw and what they heard, and sometimes things are lost in translation. We'll review officers' body cams and their interviews with the initial interviews. If there's something that doesn't make sense, we'll follow up on it. So, it's an actual investigation. We go back and we look at it. It's a very, very tedious. It's very, I call it a very slow roll. It's deliberate. Some things you just can't make a case on. We're not out here just to put a case on somebody that obviously doesn't merit it. Because there's a lot of times when we like to say three sides to the story. We're tasked with finding the middle ground. The data's telling us pretty much what we know, that there's a small amount of individuals that are still involved in a lot of the violence, and that they're atypically, so we have two different sets of violence. You'll have what I call one-offs, which will be domestic in nature situations, a disagreement between people you've never heard about, things that you really necessarily couldn't see coming because it was so under the radar or it was so personal that you didn't even know it existed. And then we have the group violence, which makes up over 50% of our stuff, and over the last 6 or 7 years, that is a back and forth where we know where we start determining, okay, this group is shooting at this group shooting back at this group. So it kind of tells us what we already knew. It vets that. So what we're trying to do is, with this information, make strong cases on those members of those groups who are willing to pull the trigger.
We look at a number of things in evaluating whether we're going to pursue a federal case or pursue a federal investigation on something. It's a myriad of things. Their criminal history is going to play a large part in it. Their intelligence that we may have or gain through different areas of the department as to acts of violence that they're even either a part of or driving is going to be a factor in it. And certainly the potential sentence that we may get versus what the district attorney's office may get to ultimately determine, is this a person appropriate for federal prosecution, and two, is it an appropriate use of resources? It's all a balancing act that the gun team and NIBIN are just another tool in determining what federal resources should be applied to what offenders in order to pursue the overall goal of reducing violence. If by the work that the investigators and the gun team and then the evidence technicians and the crime scene, and then it gets off to me. But all that work is worth and allows one kid to not have to sleep in his bathtub because the people down the street are in a feud, and his mom's worried about bullets coming through the window, and if it prevents one more somebody in this department having to do another death notification and telling a mother that her 15, 16, 17-year-old son has been shot and killed, or that their daughter has caught a stray bullet while they're down at the rec center, then the hours, the stress, it's all worth it.